Welcome to Let's Cooking, the first feedback project cookbook. This presentation was originally given at the 6th Pecha Kucha Whistler event in April 2012. My name is Hannah Detlefsen, and I am a Japanese home cooking instructor, and I want to teach everyone how easy, simple, and delicious Japanese home cooking is. And so I have written a cookbook called Let's Cooking. Here is my problem. I don't actually think that cookbooks really teach you how to cook. You can follow a recipe and you can learn a recipe, but blindly following it doesn't actually teach you the concepts behind what you are cooking. It's not like having an instructor. And so when I designed my book, I kept this in mind and I laid out my recipes so that I have one main recipe to introduce you to a concept. And then after that recipe, I have 4 variations that give you some hints and some guidelines for taking local and seasonal ingredients and really playing around with that original concept that you learned. I've also included other educational design features like introducing ingredients, including step-by-step pictures, and as well adding graphics that really teach you about the concepts behind the recipes rather than just giving you step-by-step. But even with the best designed cookbook, it still may end up looking like this, tabbed with good intentions but never used. This is one of my recipe books where I've actually only used one recipe. And if you don't use the cookbook, you're never going to learn. So I came up with an idea, and actually I was inspired by my day job. I am a museum educator by day, and if you think about it, actually, a museum and a cookbook are very similar. If you think about it, a museum is a building full of collections of curated artifacts, and a cookbook is the same, especially one that is focused on the cuisine of a particular culture. Furthermore, the educational philosophy of museums and cookbooks have been the same. At a museum, you'll see an object, and beside that object is a label. And the museum will expect you to learn from reading that label. And until recently, cookbooks have been the same. And here is where museums are taking a step ahead educationally. They are creating participatory exhibits as a way of engaging the visitor. Here is an example at the New York MoMA. This exhibition was called Measuring the Universe, and visitors would record their name, birth date, and their height and create this collective image of themselves. And it's really the participatory element that gets the conversation started. Here's another one at the Queensland Museum of Art called the Obliteration Room, where essentially the visitors were let loose in a completely white room with colorful stickers, and they created something special together and were engaged through the act of participation. So this inspired me to create the feedback project, which had me put all of my recipes online and ask for people's feedback on the recipes to engage them in the creation of the cookbook. So I plopped all of my recipes online and I said, please read them, try them out, and leave me a comment or send me a photograph of what you make. And that will make me revise my recipes with the user in mind so I know exactly what it is that you need to know, and as well get people involved in the making of the cookbook. And so here are some of the photos that I received, and this was really exciting to see people actually using my cookbook and to be able to see and show others what people were creating through these recipes. There was still a problem, however. My site was getting a lot of views, but relative to the number of views, I wasn't getting very much feedback. So this is really like that photograph earlier of the cookbook with lots of tabs. If people are not using it, then they are not learning. There's all this kind of lost opportunity for education. So I was a bit stumped until I went to this dinner party where I got an idea Dinner parties are where all good ideas come from. Where a friend of mine said, I really would like to try out one of your recipes. I just haven't gotten around to it. And other friends echoed this sentiment and they decided, well, why don't we just get together and do this all together? So I hosted a feedback potluck party where everybody who came was assigned one of the recipes from the cookbook, and they either made it at my house or they brought it along with them. But the idea was that everybody made a recipe, they presented it to each other, and everybody tasted and smelled and experienced every recipe. And what was great was they got to speak to each other about the process of making it and ask questions and talk about where they bought their ingredients and the challenges that they had and things that were really easy about it. And then at the end of the evening, I handed out paper copies of the recipes and asked for people's feedback in person. And I also had the opportunity to speak to them. And the event was fantastic. I mean, to be able to taste what people were making and really know that my recipes were working was such a great experience. But the really exciting part was hearing afterwards people say, I went home and I actually made another recipe that somebody else had made because I saw what they did and how easy it was and what a great result it was. And so this party actually got people cooking. And so the result of all of this is now collected in Let's Cooking Volume 1, a book about Japanese home cooking. And so I hope you will use it, have fun, and stay tuned for the next feedback project. Thanks very much.